The car screeched to a halt at the curb. "You call this a ride? This thing smells like poverty," sneered Jason, a 17-year-old draped in designer clothes, as he swung open the door of the battered yellow taxi. The driver, a middle-aged man with weary eyes, tightened his grip on the steering wheel but said nothing. His knuckles turned white. It wasn't the first time he had been insulted by a privileged passenger, but something about this kid's voice cut deeper. Jason tossed a crumpled bill onto the front seat. "Keep the change. Might help you buy some air freshener." A voice, calm yet commanding, cut through the tension. Jason spun around, his arrogant smirk faltering. His father, Richard Whitmore, stood on the sidewalk, arms crossed, eyes like steel. Jason's stomach twisted. Richard walked to the driver's window and pulled out his wallet. "Mr. Rodriguez, I appreciate your service. Please accept this as compensation for my son's rudeness." He handed the driver a crisp $100 bill, his tone firm yet apologetic. Jason scoffed. "Dad, what are you doing? He's just a—" "Get in the car." Richard's voice dropped an octave, and Jason knew better than to argue. The drive back home was silent, the weight of his father's disappointment suffocating. When they arrived at their sprawling mansion, Richard parked the sleek black Mercedes but made no move to exit. "You think money makes you better than others?" His voice was even, but the underlying anger was unmistakable. "You don't even know where it comes from, do you?" Jason frowned. "Of course I do. You make it," Richard exhaled, shaking his head. "No, Jason. I earned it. And before I did, I was in that driver's seat." Jason blinked. "Wait. What?" "I was a taxi driver before I built this company. I worked long hours, faced humiliation, and fought for every dollar to give you this life." Jason sank into his seat, his mind racing. His father, the man who owned skyscrapers and mingled with billionaires, had once driven a taxi? Richard turned to his son, his expression unreadable. "Tomorrow, you're spending the day with Mr. Rodriguez. You'll work with him, see the city through his eyes. Maybe then you'll understand the value of respect." Jason opened his mouth to protest, but Richard raised a hand. "No arguments. This is happening." The next morning, Jason sat stiffly in the passenger seat of the same yellow taxi. Mr. Rodriguez shot him a glance, a ghost of a smirk on his lips. "Buckle up, kid. It's going to be a long day." As they weaved through traffic, picking up tired workers, struggling parents, and hopeful dreamers, Jason saw the world in a way he never had before. He listened to their stories, watched as Mr. Rodriguez offered small kindnesses, a free ride for an elderly woman, an encouraging word to a nervous job seeker. By the end of the day, Jason was silent. His designer jacket felt too heavy, his expensive sneakers too clean. When his father picked him up, Jason didn't meet his eyes. He simply muttered, "Thanks for making me do this." Richard smiled. "Lesson learned." Jason nodded, and for the first time in his life he meant it.